Now then, viewers, friends and freedom adventurers, welcome to part 11 of Home Life in Lockdown. Now, as you appreciate, at some point the title of these series of videos will have to change. I mean, at the moment the lockdown in the UK is easing, but for how long? That's the question. So at some point I'll be asking for viewers' thoughts on the title. Do we need to change it? Has the format run its full course, and should we go back to videos about individual subjects? But the idea here really was to show a whole series of possibilities, because life can be a load of possibilities. So there you go. So this week, I'm just referring to my notes again to make this concise. This week I'm starting the renovation process on some forklift batteries that I bought recently for scrap price, and we're continuing on the window project because there's a complete frame and casements to be made on one of the windows. We've got another bee's nest, a bumblebee's nest, and it's in the front of this workshop here, so that's sort of interesting. And I'm investigating an electric oil filled heating radiator that refuses to work. So dig in there and find out what the problem is. Now, just recently this is a bit of a tangent there, I've been listening to some J.J. Cale again, one of my favourite artists, and he's got a song called Call Me the Breeze, and there's a line in there that is particularly pertinent to low impact, and you're going to have to excuse the double negative. They seem to creep in all the time now, and people ignore them. But the line is ain't carrying no heavy load. And people who push the boundaries of their consumption and their demands on the world, eventually the strain shows in their mind and body. So there was an American poet who was a right rogue, but one of his phrases was, "Don't want to be the richest person in the cemetery." There's no point working all hours and robbing everybody blind and destroying the environment, because you're going to die anyway at some point. It's all about sort of a work-life balance and priorities. So there you go. So we're going to crack on and just go as far as we can see. Hopefully you'll enjoy this. The new viewers, hopefully you'll subscribe. Anyone, please comment. I just love the comments, and if one of them's a bit sort of over the edge, I'll just with no sort of malice or forethought or anything like that. It's just like, that's the boundary. And as I say, if you are a new viewer, please subscribe. So let's get on with this. So let's start off, before we do any work, with some exercises. Shake the hands and loosen the shoulders up. Okay, here we go. Remember, the first one is cross the hands and raise up and stretch out. We're stretching the arms like that, and we're raising and we're stretching the back, and then cross the other way. There we go. Okay, a dozen of those. Then when you've done that, elbows out and raise the whole shoulder area up, just like that. My heels are off the ground. I can feel my back stretching. Okay, a dozen of those. Then, yeah, forward, back, stretch that shoulder, both there and there. Okay, don't do too many of those, maybe 3 or 4. Next one is hand up there and this hand down here. Try and keep the head upright. Last time I had my head tipped over a bit, so keep it upright, but just push this arm down. Try and reach for the ground, and it's this muscles here that you're stretching. And then the other way. And do 3 or 4 of those. Then, next one, you roll the shoulders back, keeping your hands just here. Roll them back, roll them forward, up, back, down, forward, up, back, down. Half a dozen going backwards, and then half a dozen going forwards. Okay, remember to check, raise up round your ears like this and drop the shoulders, and see if you can get that bounce. Right, we've added one more in, but I'm going to add another one in, but for that I'm going to need the benefit of this tree. So what you do is up, round and back, up, round and back, and then 6 going backwards and then 6 going forwards. I mean, some people will only be able to do that, okay, but over time you'll be able to move like that. And I'm holding on to this tree because of my balance. And then 6 back this way. And I'm only doing 3. And then 6 forward. So back, up, round and down. Okay. Hopefully you're starting to notice the difference. We'll continue with these on part 12. Now then, what we got here? We've got some 300 amp hour 2 volt cells, and I'm going to start renovating them. So let's just have a look. We're on DC volts. .82 volts. Hopefully you can see that. But 1.82, and this one is very similar. 1.83. So I'm going to clean the tops, clean the threads, and start putting them together with some Vaseline or some terminal grease. So we'll just crack on with that. You don't need to see it all, but wipe the top because they're mighty mucky. And they've got a strange automatic fill system. It's not on the cap, it's this little thing here. So if you want to use these, we'll have to bung those up at some point. But there's no point doing too much until I've put them on charge for a good 6 days, something like that. So just clean those up a bit whilst we're doing it, and then wire brush the tops, start putting them together. So I'll have the positive there, so negative goes to this positive. What I'm going to do is I could use one of my big battery chargers and maybe a variac or something like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt these up in packs of 12 volts. Now we need a socket just to bolt those up. Okay, that's 4 volts. Negative there, positive there. These will get taken apart again, but I might as well start the process of getting the connections well lubed up. That wants to go that way. That little filler is being a pain, so we'll just do it that way. I'm just bending the connections so that the cells are close together, so they're more robust as a pack. I can put a strap round them as well. Once they're in a pack of 6. Right, I'll just crack on with that. So there we go, that's 6 in series, packed together, and we're charging at about 8 amps at the moment, and we'll just leave it on that for ages and ages. I will switch it off at night because of course we won't be generating solar power then. We'll just trickle charge that for days and days and days, and the current that it draws will probably increase as these batteries charge up a bit, and then of course it will decrease as they get towards fully charged. Let's hope that all works, and we'll monitor the situation. But that is 300 amp hours at 12 volts. And when you consider that there's 80 amp hours to the kilowatt, 3/8 24, so it's about 3.5 kilowatts worth of storage. that's at 100% efficient, which is not. So therefore it's about 3 kilowatts worth of storage. But there's another pack, but I'm charging up at 12 volt because it's easier with the 12 volt chargers. So let's have a look at these caps here. It looks like they've got baskets in the bottom, which I'm not over fond of, because as you can see, you can't get a hydrometer in there, which is a bit mad. So we'll just chop those off, and then when you look down under the cap, you can at least see the electrolyte level and use a hydrometer. And there's plenty of electrolyte in there. Now, where are we? Yes. One of the problems with these auto fillers is they can go wrong, things can stick, and then the batteries are overfilled, and then they can get to the point where actually they're losing the electrolyte out the top. And of course the posts here and the seals around here get flooded as well. I'm not over fond of automatic fillers. They sound like a brilliant idea, but like most things, you've still got to maintain them. So you might as well do it properly to start with, because then you keep an eye on what's going on, rather than just assuming that things are working properly. And when they don't, you don't notice because you're not looking. That one's been replaced at one time, which is great. There we go. Brilliant. So we'll just let that charge. If you see now, let me just spin round to the charger. The charge rate's gone up already. Yeah, so they're accepting a charge, which is great. These will probably be alright. Yeah, I have great hopes for these. Right, only time will tell though, and we've got to do it right. It's been quite windy the last few days, prevented me from filming outside and taking any video, but we're making pins, round pins, and you've seen me do this before. So this is just some sweet chestnut cut into a roughly, I would say, 8 and 9 mil square, and tapered with a chisel on the ends, and then we just belt it through this hole. So I'll just add this little bit in there. There you see, just roughly tapered, and there's the hole. So you know, you can drill any hole, any size hole you want, depending what size pin you want, as long as you can drill the right hole in the frame and cut the pegs the right size, etc, etc. I mean, the bigger the peg, the more difficult it is to drive through the hole, and you know, unless you're doing something really like agricultural, like dockside or a big timber frame, then you know, each one to their own, as it were. And there we go. and I'm making a another window frame, but this time I'm using some Sweet Chestnut that I milled 3 or 4 years ago, and it's been air drying in the shed to make the actual frame itself. So this time it wants a frame and new casements. So we'll have frame, new casements and double glazing. Ooh, what an upgrade. Anyway, I'll show you the frame, because this Sweet Chestnut, 1 or 2 bits of it, is absolutely glorious. So here's the window frame, mainly out of Sweet Chestnut, but I wanted to show you some of the grain on this frame. So let's just sort of move the camera in. So here we go. It's quite dense timber, and as you can see, it's got quite a nice grain to it. And the frame's put together with those pins. There we go. And you see that dark colour in there, and wiggly bits. So all this wants cleaning up now. I am going to paint it though, but then it will match everything else. It's very tempting to varnish it, but I don't think so. And then that one there, that style there, is oak. As you see, the medullary rays there, or the silver figurine. Right, let's crack on with something else. And here's the front gable end of my workshop, and I built this in the late 80s, early 90s. Took me forever, using reclaimed materials, but just in that little hole there is a bumblebee's nest, and if we wait long enough we can see one go in. Has that one just come out? There we go. Okay. Now then, this is an oil-filled radiator, and I find them very useful as dump loads. Let's just have a look at the label. 2.5 kilowatt. Perfect. But this one doesn't seem to work, and I imagine that the fault could be in the element, perhaps, or this oil-filled radiator could have had some clothing put on it and it's overheated, and there's a over temperature safety device, which is normally a bimetal strip, but if that's continually used, the contacts on it will burn out. So that silver trim there, chrome trim, is bolted together at the bottom, or clipped together at the bottom, and then this whole face comes off. So the only thing to do is, it doesn't work, let's investigate. I've done the obvious and checked that the fuse in the plug is fine, which it is. There's no point delving in there if the fault is in the plug there. And somebody, you never can tell what could have happened. Somebody could have robbed the fuse for something else, or they could have robbed it and then put a different one and only put a 5 amp one in there, in which case it will blow, and so it goes on. So it's sort of assumptions when repairing stuff is very dangerous. Bit like life really. Should never assume anything. and never assume that somebody has your best interests at heart. It's normally the other way round. Right, so let's have a look at this fixing. Okay, so on this one it's just a spring. So let's just undo that and see what happens. There we go. And the springs come off. That's somewhere safe. Right, there's a clip there. Couple of little tabs there. There we go. Okay. Okay, let's turn round. This is different again. Just there, we've got that cover here which says don't cover. Yeah, and there's a couple of screws in there. There we go. So that there is the switch for the various powers. That there is the thermostat. That I'm not sure what it is, but we'll find out. What else have we got? That there is the overload protection. And there we've got the element. So what should we try first? I think we'll try the element. We've got 3 wires going to it, and it looks like the bottom is the neutral. And we've got live 1 and live 2. So let's just check that first, because if that's gone then we're just wasting our time. So we'll put it on resistance. We'll put it at 200 ohms. Kick the camera. There we go. Can we see the? We can see the. That's better. So between there and there, 25 ohms, 34 ohms. So they're all right. Okay, so let's put it on continuity and let's see if we can go across this. Yeah. I think that's where the problem lies. It's been overheated and that's packed up. Certainly looks like it. Where are we? You can see that's all crusty and flaky. Where are we? There we go. So that's a bit of a sign. So let's just check that again. Yep. So that is seemingly duff. Yep. So there's only one way to make sure it all works again, is just to clip those two together. Temporary like, that would not be a permanent fix. Okay, and then we will just plug it in and see what happens, and then we'll just have to order one of these over temperature sensors. I don't think that's working. So we've stood the heater upright so that the oil gets down to the heating element. It's warming up. So we've got the meter set on AC. Now that one there was the neutral, so that is got mains going to it, and that's got mains going to it, and I'll switch that one off, and that one hasn't. Okay, so that switch, although the indicator on it is not working, the switch itself is working. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, something so simple as that, yeah, the heater was thrown away, and it's probably just because somebody has put some damp clothes on the top of it, and it's just got over hot, switched off, job done. Now then, this is that heat sensor that I got out the oil radiator, electric oil heater radiator thing, and I think it's a one-shot wonder. It's got no numbers on it or anything, and there's all this ceramic here, so I think we should just break it apart and see what it is. So let's just crush this and see what happens. All right. Okay. Let's go and investigate on the bench. So here we are, I've broken it apart. And it does actually have a contact in there that is burnt. And there's the other side. And that's obviously a bimetal arrangement, but it's been arcing like mad. So this is not the first time that this has given up. Can you see all that arcing there? And the contact there is black and burnt. Yeah, you can hardly see it. So there you go, but it's got no numbers on it. So what temperature should it be? And there you go. And as per usual, although these little casters are very good, that steel bracket they're bolted to is a bit weak. So this one here was all bendy and nearly snapping off. So we just machined a block of wood. That'll do. Keeps it all level. And hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and we'll catch up with you soon. Cheers for now.